man, oh man. Welcome back. You're watching The Scorecard live from Broadcasting House. About 30 minutes down the line, we continue with this conversation, the state of devolution in Kenya, 10 years on. We now want to go back to the scoreboard and have a look at what are Kenyans talking about. Instead, in regard to devolution, Mariambo, you want to take us through the comment section?
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much, O'Brien. And the question we had asked is, how has devolution worked for you? So your comments are coming in fast and furious. We have Abu Mahmoud Gamoyo, baadhi ya huduma kugatuliwa imekuwa afueni, so for him it has worked. Rotich keeps Evans so saying, paying motorbike sticker, parking fee, etc., additional tax has not worked for me. So he has, reservations in as far as devolution is concerned. And then Mark Mamba says, it's just fine, but not what we hoped for. So Brian, those are some of the comments which are coming in. So keep them coming. The question is, how has devolution worked for you? That is our question of the day. I'd like to ask Mr. Githinji, when you talk about, devolution and county governments, the health sector, can I say has been quite vibrant in terms of, doctors going on strike and all that. I'm wondering how the intergovernmental relation has, tried to bridge that gap in terms of, between the county governments and the national government to be able to, can I say, bring a standard, payment, because I think that some of the disparities which are there, some countries are paying better than others and all that. And the other question that I would want you also to discuss with us is it time for us to have the Health Commission, just like the way Teachers Commission, the teachers have their commission, the TSC, because that is one of the things that the doctors have been pushing for, to enable them, cater for their needs and all that. So that is to you, Mr. Githinji.
Okay, fine. Will you allow me to say something about something we talked about before, and I'll come to this? Yes, about, sometimes we talk about the problems in the county governments as if we had a Nigerian government before county governments came. The problem of, for example, of corruption, is not particular to county governments. In fact, it is a problem of the people of Kenya. It's not a problem of county governments. And I would say, even if this money even if we are not devolved, probably there would still be corruption. Not only that, this time the corruption would be taking the money out. At least if there is some corruption in the counties, because I know there is some, most of the resources are not big enough to be taken out, the development takes place in the country. Mm-hmm. So let us also see these things in their right proportion. Let's not forget where we came from.
Corruption is the national problem.
And even for health, mm-hmm. or even, it is not like we came from a very good health system, mm-hmm. and it has corrupted in the hands of the county governments. No, it was much worse, because actually, and I think it is a point which Prof had posed in our conversation, that there are places where they had no hospitals, where they had no doctors, and they have visited those places since devolution.
Very good.
And now they have hospitals, they have dispensaries, they have doctors, and they never had them before. And they used to feel like they were not part of Kenya in terms of those kind of facilities.
Very well.
Therefore, we have done quite well in those things. Or even the problem of ghost workers. First of all, it is not even peculiar to Kenya, because I can say I've worked on for many governments on this continent on issues of public service management. And ghost workers have been a perennial problem. And they are
even in other countries.
It is not only a public problem. Mm-hmm. Those people who study audit and accounting will know what we call payroll funding. And payroll funding is a serious problem, even in big corporations, international corporations. So it is not just the government. If you are not vigilant and you are running a big organization, yes, payroll funding, which is what ghost workers is primarily about, will be there. But let's now answer the question which has been asked here by Marie, which is very pertinent, mm-hmm. about health workers. First, let us agree, going Health Commission way is partly reversing devolution. At the moment, for example, yes, all teachers are managed by Teacher Service Commission and so forth. But you know, if you can argue it for health, there's no reason why in time you cannot also argue that we should have Agriculture Extension Workers Commission, for example. There's no reason why tomorrow you cannot talk about water technicians and engineers having their own commission. We are on a journey, that's what I've said. And there have been some problems there. But I also tell you one thing. It is not one story about health workers. There are places where if you talk about this health commission, those people who felt they were not being served by a centralized system of health management, okay? The kind of places where we are saying there were no hospitals, there were no nurses and so forth. Those places will not want to hear anything about a health commission. So let us not talk as if all Kenyans have a consensus on this.
But then how do you justify the fact that in the last 10 years we've had about 16 nurses strikes in Kenya and 7 doctor strike?
First, let us first of all agree that first of all, all nurses and doctors are employed by individual county governments. Therefore, some county governments...
But they have an umbrella,
well, they have an umbrella union, and if you look very carefully, it is not always that everybody is on strike. If you look very carefully, you will notice that it is not everybody on strike. But more importantly, yes, because some governors have done badly, then they make other governors also look bad, and they make the union, therefore, rally the others to support it. But on that note, let me say that this problem has been recognized. And very recently, there was a very important meeting between His Excellency the President William Ruto and all the governors, and they agreed the solution to this is not to try to roll back devolution in terms of health workers being decentralized in terms of their management, but rather by having, health workers advisory, human resources advisory council, which therefore will be looking at these problems, both from a national perspective, but also from a county perspective in terms of therefore also giving governors advice and so forth. But on that note, let us also take one very important fact, that health workers are the largest workforce, occupation group in all the county governments. The county governments have employed a lot of health workers. And therefore, even for most counties, more than a third of the wage bill of a county government go to health workers. Now, health workers also happen to be in a very sensitive situation. Therefore, even a county government doesn't receive resources in good time and is not able to pay its employees in good time. Of course, the largest group which is affected is health workers. And the group which, when it goes on strike and it becomes most sensitive, is health workers.
Yeah, I want to bring in Michelle in this conversation, and I want to hear from you. I mean, when you look at the report, the annual report released by the controller of budgets. I mean, the report says that on average, counties are supposed to spend about 30% of their budget on development. That is according to the law. But on average, most counties, they don't even spend 15% of their budgets on development. Why do we have such a low allocation to development?
Thank you, O'Brien. We're talking about the budget, 35% of the budget should not, above 35% of the budget should not go to the wage bill. That's one. Secondly, at least 30% should go to development. But as we look at the control of budget reports, we see that the absorption rate of the development budgets has been quite low. But we also see that why that's the case is because I do believe that counties have become employment bureaus, meaning as you've said, 35% of the budget should be not more than 35% of the budget should be going to the wage bill. But you see that some counties have surpassed that to even 60% of the wage bill going to recurrent expenditure. Of 60% of the budget going to recurrent expenditure, meaning it leaves a less of the budget to development. But we also see some governors cite the late disbursement of funds to the counties as one of the reasons why they cannot absorb the budget of development, because we've seen that sometimes we've seen that the National Treasury prioritizes the national government's projects. They take counties as an afterthought. So governors say that when the money is disbursed, the absorption rate is quite low, and also when they're trying to absorb it, probably the money has been released probably one of the few months to the end of the fiscal year, probably be it June, and when the IFMIS system gets closed, probably they don't even have time, as I've said, to absorb that money. But also it also just now begs the question of on-source revenue of counties, because sometimes we do know that some of these counties have the capacity to get money for be it development or even just to service their own recurrent expenditure. But we've seen that there's so many leakages when it comes to the own source revenue. We've seen that some counties are still they are yet to automate that process, because they're yet to automate the revenue system. Some counties are still understating what they collect from their revenues. So we see when the counties fully optimize their own source revenue, I do believe that the counties have the capacity to even service the recurrent expenditure and also get development, where they'll be providing be it job opportunities or just development in the counties, so that they have the multiplier effect. But I do believe that own source revenue in the counties has been a very big challenge, because we've seen that some counties are doing well by automating, but some they still have revenue leakages, as you've seen in the auditor's general review.
I know the chair want to respond to that, but I also want to hear this from Prof. I mean, when you look at the automation of revenue collection, about almost 85% of all counties in Kenya have managed to automate their revenue collection. But why do we still have collection from own sources still at a paltry 46%?
First of all, Obran, there's a few things here to look at. One is that the Revenue Collection Commission normally gives counties targets. They don't take their own targets. They were given. And actually, in the current budget for 2023, they were given 35% of the potential of the revenue they can collect. So when you're seeing those counties not meeting their targets, they are not meeting a target of 35% of their potential. It tells you that there's a serious own revenue collection, which is a big problem in the county. And you look, for example, in Nairobi, I would actually fault Sakaja. When Sakaja came in, NMS has got a automation system for collecting revenue. Because I'm a taxpayer here, my company buys licenses to do business here. It went poorly manual. And every governor tends to create their own automation. And this is another problem, because now why are you removing some automation and replacing their own? It tells you that the leakages here are created and actually inflicted. So there's another challenge of leakages. Forget about even the automation. The leakages of revenue is out of this world. For example, and this is something you can see. Kithinji, there's a time I went to the airport, and when I was in the airport, I'd parked my car there for 2 days because I drove to the airport, left my car in the airport, then I flew out of the country. When I came back, I was supposed to be paying something like 3,500 for parking. Then a security guard came and told me, can I give you a more recent receipt? Then we share the difference.
And of course you said yes.
No, I can't say yes. What I'm trying to say, can you imagine? Can you just imagine how much revenue
leakages that we have?
So the leakages are amazing. To what extent can you automate even the human being who is giving this receipt? So because the receipt is automated, it can record how many hours the car has been in the airport, but there's a human element. So I think we need to move away just from that automation, and also move away from when we become Kenyans who wants to collect revenue. The president has been crying about, let's collect revenue and depend on our own taxes. But if a Kenyan is helping other people to escape that payment,
then we have a challenge.
We have a problem.
I want to hear this from Kiragu. Why is it that collection of revenue by county government still is about 46%?
Well, I think partly that's what Prof has alluded to. Systems failure, that the systems are not good enough.
But are they designed to fail?
Back again also to
but are the systems designed to fail?
Let's first of all agree on the big bang. There was that aspect of disruption, okay? And the disruption was exacerbated, especially in the initial years, for several years actually, because of course, you found other revenue collector and you want to bring in your own revenue collection people. Are we together? You found a system and you want to change it to have your own system. Those disruptions...
So that it can fit your needs.
Yes, but now when you do those kind of things and you are dealing with smart Kenyans, you are creating loopholes for them to take whatever they can take from you. And therefore, the most important thing is that sense of integrity needs to percolate through the whole system. And I would say from a financial management point of view, there are no controls which are better than the ethos, the integrity, the culture of your employees. Because however good your system is, and you have seen it even in the banks, you have been, you know how rigorous banks are. And the employees are still able, if there are enough of them, 10 of them connive to steal from you, you will discover it later on, maybe, if you are lucky. But you also may not discover it. Therefore, so there are significant, there are many elements in this.
And how should we cure this?
Well, how you cure this is, of course, therefore, if you move in as a governor and your finance management team, first of all, the systems have to be good, but the people also have to be good.
But we have seen a situation whereby, when a new governor comes into the office,
yes,
the first assignment is to replace everyone and to change the systems. Can we get to a point whereby, regardless of who is in the office, you have the right people in the office and you have the right systems in place?
Well, I don't think you can make that general rule for only one reason. Because the governors come to the office and they have a sense money has been, the county has been losing money, okay? And some of them very genuinely try to bring in a new system and new people.
You're nodding your head.
Let's be honest here. Maybe you have never been a politician, but when you are campaigning, their position in the county, and because you have nothing to give, you promise everything. You promise for you, I'll make you in charge of the collection of taxes in the Nairobi, for you will collect in Madaraka. And these people, you come with your people. Remember, when Kidero, I can tell you for true, when Kidero was the governor of Nairobi, you could see more people who are helping people park cars. There were more lures. Let's be honest. Now you see a different language.
No, I'm trying to say, because I mean, he's not here.
Yes,
to defend that.
I'm saying this because this is factual. So I'm trying to say everybody tend to bring their own people. Not that it's not working. It's about rewarding system. Ghost workers also, everybody come with their ghost workers list. So according to us, we have been proposing that tax collection, there are two things we need to do. It must be relational. Like even now we can advise the president and the state house. Instead of trying to do a lot of legislation, how can we make Kenyans own the process that the more taxes we collect, the more we can get services? So one thing. Then secondly, everyone in Kenya knows we steal money. So no one genuinely even believes they should actually pay taxes because we know money is being stolen. So reducing corruption and then being relational, and then secondly, trying to inculcate. For example, you gave me an example when you went to Germany, where you can go and you park your car on the street, no one is watching you. You put your car there, you go to a payment point, put a coin and pay, you can't pick your car, no one is inspected, and you go away. That is a level of responsibility. Here, you have everybody on the street collecting taxes. First of all, the cost of collecting taxes is too expensive.
Very good.
And those people want to eat. So too many people eating from taxes makes tax revenues and revenue collections become dangerous.
And that's why, the chair was talking about, inculcating a culture of honesty, a culture of straightforwardness, and inculcating a culture of proper ethos.
But also corruption is, because if you know you are collecting taxes which will be stolen, You can even say, afadhali, let me give this guy 100 shillings instead of paying 300 shillings, because even if I pay 300, it will be stolen.
Yes,
corruption must be reduced.
I want to let us allow Whitney to say something before we wind up, because time is really gone.
I think a solution is just to, we've seen that the KRA is very effective in collecting national taxes. I think we can take the KRA officials to counties to be collecting those taxes. I think that they've proven to be very efficient, very effective, and also they're meeting their revenue targets. So I think it's time to deploy the KRA officials to counties.
Very good.
On that one.
In 30 seconds,
yes,
because we have to wind up.
First, His Excellency the President has actually offered to champion and support county governments to have a uniform system for own source revenue collection.
Very good.
So that's an important development,
Chair,
which has not been there before. But number two, the truth also of the matter is that there are people who have also had questions whether KRA improved their revenue collection or not. That is still a subject which can be debated.
I mean, this is a very interesting conversation, and we cannot exhaust it with just one platform. So you have to allow me for us to go to the scorecarding questions, and then thereafter we shall organize to have this conversation going on. And so, as usual, we now want to go to our two questions that we are going to scorecard. And so the first question is, in terms of service delivery, how do you rate county governments? I want to start with Misheni.
In terms of service delivery, I would rate counties at 2.
2.
Yes, I do believe that most of the counties are still yet to get to provide proper services, be it in healthcare, be it in agriculture, be it even in something like water, which is devolved. I think they're yet to provide proper services.
So you're assigning them 2.
Yes. 2.
What about Prof? In terms of service delivery, how do you rate county governments?
I would give it a 1 because we have devolved more positions, corruptions, and we haven't devolved, if you like, resources and services. Like if you go, for example, you saw Taita Taveta is performing very poorly. 60% of the land in Taita Taveta is taken by the national park.
Very good. What about...
that's out of 5 or how many?
Yeah, that is out of 5.
Out of 5, I said I would give them B. Therefore, I would say I would put it at 3.5.
3.5. That is for service delivery.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Then question number 2, how do you rate the rollout of devolution? Let's start with Whitney.
I would give it 2 again. I do believe that even though the functions have been devolved, the resources have not followed the functions. So we see that the national government is still taking a lion's share of the budget in the functions that have been devolved. So, of course, if the national government has the resources, then it just essentially means that they've not been devolved. So 2.
You're assigning it 2.
Yes.
Very good. Let's go to the chair.
I would go to the same because actually the 2 are related. And I would say, as I said, we have made very major strides, and therefore I would still give them a score of a B. 3.5.
That is 3.5 as well. Yes, Prof.
On the role of the county government, I will give it a 2.
A 2.
The main thing here is that there is nothing like county government so far regarding the issue of service delivery, because it was supposed to do those things: economic development, service delivery, representation is what has been achieved to the highest level.
So you're giving it 2?
I'm giving it 2.
Very good indeed. Well, gentlemen, I'm sorry I have to rush you, and lady, but time is not on our side, actually. Let's now go to the scoreboard and get to hear more from Marie Yambo before we call it a night here.
Indeed, Brian, thank you once again to our viewers who have actually been sharing their views with us. The question we had asked, has devolution worked for you? And, in as much as we have a lot of, milestones to be proud of, most Kenyans are concerned about corruption. So William Mukabano Orlando says it was total madness, opening more room for corruption. D.O. Kawa says, just to share my tax. So for him, he doesn't see the benefits of devolution. The only thing is that his pockets are getting empty and emptier. Miriam Dakisam, it has improved many sectors. Devolution is key to marginalized places. Devolution devolved corruption. That is Jeremiah Chitechi on Facebook. Joyce Juguna says nothing, only corruption once again. So thank you so much for taking the time to interact with us. We hope to see you again next week. My name is Marie Yambo O'Brien.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Marie Yambo, for those comments. And it seems like, corruption is still a big issue, at the county levels. Well, my name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been watching the Scorecard live from Broadcasting House. We have been in the company of the chair of the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. This is Kethenji Kirago. Thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us this evening. And of course, with Nimisheni, political economist, asante sana for your time this evening as well. And at last we have Fred Ogola, Prof, who is a governance expert, and of course Marie Yambo. Well, on behalf of the entire production team, thank you for your time. Have yourself a good night. We'll see you again on Tuesday. Otherwise, good.